What is going on, Only Playbook fans? We are back for another episode. Sorry if I sound super nasally. I am under the influence of sickness. Don't know what it is, but it has caught up to me. I am Sweetcar. I got my co-host Shovit and Shishot. We have a special episode today. We are going to bring someone on as a guest, very near and dear to our hearts, just in a lot of sense of the word, if you will. Somebody that I grew up with, somebody who is the same culture as us, comes from the same background as us, but lo and behold, all of us growing up wanting to become professional athletes or go on that path, it all cut short. You know why? Because we're all Nepali and our genes don't allow us to grow after a certain size and weight. And it's just like life just says, you can't do this. There's a cap. And so we are cut off. But this guy, there was no cap. And so we can't wait to talk to him about it. He is none other than Shan Acharya. He is currently playing Division II football at Augustana College, a redshirt freshman. He is Nepali descent, 6'5", 322 pounds.
Yeah, DNA test stat. Let me get a DNA test.
We will talk about all of this, how he has turned into such a humongous human being and what he eats to get there and all of the good stuff. So without further ado, guys, let's bring on Shan Acharya here. What's up, Shan? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What's up?
Hey. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good. You barely fit the camera screen, man. I was just talking about how massive you are and how for the three of us being Nepali and having aspirations of playing sports growing up, at some point, the Nepali genetics just kind of totally said, nope, you can't do it. There's a cutoff. And we just stopped growing, man. So
he's got to be a Kalodao person, man. No Kalodao guy looks that big.
Kalodao for the win. I hate it when my mom makes fun of I'm home right now. I'm home right now because we got like a week off before fall camp and like all straight Kalodao. And like
yes.
With the gyue, right? You got to get some gyue in that.
All the
gyue.
Absolutely. All the gyue.
It's going to lead into the best segue to initially start this, Shan. You are 6 foot. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've probably been growing since I talked about this episode. 6'5", 322 pounds is what you're listed as.
So I would say I'm probably like 6'5.5". I've trimmed a little bit. College has got me around. I'm like 308 right now, but yeah, I'm like 6'5.5", 308.
So just kick us off with this, because again, I've known you. I was there when you were born, right? So for a lot of my life, you were just a normal Nepali kid. And at some point I saw you and you just skyrocketed in size to where I'm like, did Sunil Uncle and Mridul inject you with some hormones, or like, how did you turn into the size that you are? What is the diet that went into that? And just talk to me about, the growth.
I would say, I mean, if I had to be honest, I think it has to be genetics, because like, I mean, I always ate good. Like, mom and dad, like, always make sure I had food like 3 times a day, like 3 times a day with them. And always having, like dal bhat and rice at dinner. Like, we never skipped out on dinner. Like, I'd complain, man. Like, it'd be like, oh, I want McDonald's for dinner. I want Taco Bell. They'd always like, and honestly, like going to college and coming back now, I realize like that's like the best food, man. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, there's nothing like, there's no unhealthiness about it. There's no like fatty, like, it is literally the best food. And like, I think like I was like in really, really good shape as a high schooler, maybe even like some muscle mass wise, like more than I am now, because I've leaned out. But like, if it wasn't for that food, man, like I don't think it would be that. But I also like my grandparents, so like my grandpa in Nepal is like 5'10", 6 foot, which like back would have been like, crazy.
Massive.
Like, yeah.
That's Yao Ming in Nepal.
Oh, what me and my parents think kind of happened is like once, like I think we've always, like my dad's like 5'10" too, so like he's not like, but like Nepali wise, that's not super short. So I think like we've always had the tall gene in from my dad's side, and like once we got like the American like diet, nutrition, like everything was like better, like the gene just like exploded.
So did school influence that with your parents? Obviously, with a combined effort of, if you knew you wanted to go the football route, you knew you wanted to get bigger, put on some mass, maybe play the line or whatever your aspirations were. But like, did school or coaches or somebody or your friends who are in a similar path help kind of teach you how to do that? Because again, from my perspective, if you're just eating dal bhat tarkari every day, you still can't get 6'5", 320, right? So I'm like, how much protein are you eating? How many calories are you consuming to just be as massive as you are?
Yeah, no. So for sure, it's funny because I wanted to be a quarterback from like third through about 6th grade. I wanted to do that, right? And then 7th grade, I started to play tackle, and I just got rocked. Like, I was terrible. I was like this like chubby like dal bhat kid that like And then as I started talking to like the older guys, like the 8th graders at my school, they're like, nah, you guys start going to the gym. So then I started going to the gym. I like lost all that weight. I started working out. And then it wasn't really until I got to high school. Like if you look at me, like like a photo of me from like, even like my freshman or sophomore year, man, like I was a twig. But then, like you talk to like the seniors in high school, they're like, oh no, you got to start taking protein powder. You got to start taking this. So I would say like school definitely changed it. But like, I knew I was playing line when like, I think it was like halfway through my 7th grade year, I sucked at quarterback, but I was and they're like, yeah, so actually for the last game they moved me at defensive end and like balled out there, and then kind of that's where like I really started to play line. And then like 8th grade, like once I made it to the varsity team, because I was on, so funny thing is like I was on like the C team as a 7th grader, but then like they were like, oh no, we can make room for you on the line. And then 8th grade year, I get there and they're like, nah, we'd rather transition you to more of the offensive side because you're not as fast enough to be a defensive lineman. But that's kind of how it got started. But like dieting wise and all that, yeah, school definitely helped, like getting in touch with the older guys, working out and going through that. And then I would say also like another thing too was just like, personal trainers and stuff too, because that's what, like, as high school is where I started to find out like workout facilities and like different places that like train specifically just athletes rather than the gym. Because for the first 2 years of my life, I was just going to the gym. But, yeah, and once you start to meet those people, they put you on like multivitamins and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like as you just go down that path, I would say.
Yeah, man. So we kind of got things kind of in a chronological order in a sense. First of all, just tell us, what are some hurdles you had to go through to, get to the point you've gotten to so far? I'm sure there's big aspirations and whatnot. A lot of us, like, we were talking about it beforehand, wanted to play in the NBA. I had to tell him in 5th grade, Shovit, you're probably not going to make it. It broke his heart. Right. Yeah. So how did you persevere through all of that? And what was your motivation through all of that to get to where you are now?
For sure. Yeah, there was a lot, I would say, with me. And especially I'm from like Sweetgar knows, like I went to Elkhorn High, which is like Elkhorn.
So did I.
Yeah. So like whitest, like no brown people there. I think we maybe had 2 total minorities, and both of them were black kids on like my freshman team out of 40 kids. Like it was crazy. So, you go to a place like that, like I was met with some race. Like I remember, like, true story, like the craziest thing is like I like and the kid like didn't know, like, so soccer is like a spring sport, but they have training too. And I remember showing up and walking in the locker room and I was like, hey, do you know where like the lifting is? Like, oh, for soccer? I'm like, no, I'm here for football.
Classic.
Oh, my bad. And he was like, and like, you have kids saying like, oh, you play football or like crazy stuff like that. So like, you had those hurdles because I didn't look like anyone on the team. And like and then I would say another hurdle for me too was just like, like my parents, like they knew, but they didn't. Like I was like the guinea pig basically. Is like I was like I had to tell my parents, like, because now they're getting my little brother on it. It's like now I had to tell my parents like, hey, I can have creatine, I can have this kind of protein, I can have like oh, you guys need to start sending me to places like this to work out, and you know what I mean. So like a lot of I had to figure a lot of it out for myself, and it was really, really hard because like I didn't, you got to convince the parents to get fully on board too. That was a hurdle, I would say, is just like experimenting everything and like finding out what was best for me.
But it helped that your dad was so passionate about football, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the biggest football fanatic that I knew of any Nepali uncle when I was in Nebraska, maybe outside of being uncle. And so I think he was probably juggling with the aspect of, I love this sport. I have a son that I want to just like throw into this, but at the same time, like the health risks, just genetics, there's probably obstacles that he faced as well, right? That the battle that he was facing with himself as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like we always joke around it whenever we talk about you, like especially around your wedding time, like we'd always joke about it. It's like, that's how like, you and my dad got so close. Like my dad, he knew, but he like, so, and like, if you ask him now, like my dad knows football, like down to the basics, but once his son was getting recruited, like he didn't like, there's so much in the underbelly of the football world that is so for any first time parent, like recruiting, the politics, like, everything from like, camps all the way to, like what you should be feeding your kids, what proteins you should be giving your kids. Like it's, there's just so much under that. And yeah, like it was, I say it right now, if I didn't have like my mom, like she doesn't know as much. So she was always scared. Like if it wasn't for my dad constantly pushing me like, no, this is okay. Like he can do this, he can do that. I definitely wouldn't have gotten to the point where I was because like his passion, like obviously he didn't know anything too, but no, if it wasn't for his passion, like it would have, because that's like, and like I saw, that's like one of the things that like we've talked about too, is like the biggest hurdle for like why other Nepali kids can't do this is their parents just don't know, or their parents just don't have the passion. And thankfully, with my dad coming here at 18 and 1992 and being around in Nebraska for that long, like that definitely was a big factor to it for sure.
Yeah, man. Hey, first of all, I just want to say, like, shout out to being able to play football in college, man, as a Nepali kid, or just like as a human being. Like, that's freaking dope. My experience with playing football was in 7th grade. I signed up for football, and then the next day I saw a list of the position I was gonna play. They put me in 7th, and I just said, nah, I didn't. Dude, I'm 5'6", 130 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, that's not me, right? So, but I'm just curious, right? Like, so you play offensive line. Like, what are you doing outside of practice, like to work on your game? I know quarterback throws the ball, running back, they're running drills. What kind of drills are you doing as an offensive lineman?
So, like, the biggest thing you can work on is the weight room, right? Like, you got to grind that weight room. But, like, this is, like, I would say people always, like, it's said, like, the offensive linemen are the smartest dudes on the field, which is 100%. Like, playbook, like, you got to get in that playbook. And, like, a lot of the work is up here, like, especially for offensive line, because, like, even where I play right now, I know, like, I know some guys who are, like, smaller offensive linemen, but like just because they're like so in tune with their mind up here, like, and they know this, like the system and our like the way we run plays so good, they're just so fast. I would say obviously the playbook, and like it's stuff you don't really think about. Like, so for instance, like kick setting and pass sliding for offensive linemen, like your feet are the most important thing in the world. So that brings on like jump rope. Like I'll do some stuff that like boxers do, which is like the craziest part. Like I'll be jump roping. I'll work on like my stability. So like something, like yoga ball training. Like you're standing on a yoga ball and like throw a tennis ball at the wall. It's like crazy stuff like that. But it's just really, there's 3 things for offensive linemen. You got to have good feet. You got to be stable, like not necessarily strong. You just got to be like your core has to be good. And then your punch, that's the biggest thing. And like, that's just, but like all that can be taken care of in the weight room and just simple running. So, and but like just some simple drills, like working on pass setting, like we have like those big old sleds and doing stuff like that. But I would say just grinding in the weight room and kind of like working on your weaknesses, whether that be footwork, whether that be, just some blocks on a pad or stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things you can do.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of focus on hips and mobility.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
if you guys are working on that too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, stretching is like the biggest thing, because especially like I've gotten to college and realized this. In high school, if you were strong, you got away with it. You know what I mean? Because like no one would be as big as strong. But like the main difference between guys that go to the league in college versus guys that just kind of stay around is like your flexibility and the way you're able to move. Because everyone's strong, you know what I mean, in college. But the way you're able to move, the way you're able to get out of your stance, like yeah, for sure. Like I love that you said that. Flexibility and mobility are like the 2 biggest things in the world.
Where along the offensive line would you ideally want to play versus, where maybe they've talked to you about playing?
For sure. So in high school, I played tackle and I really liked it, but I just like, I just wasn't fast enough. I would say like out of my stance. Cause like we have a tackle right now at Augustana who's getting looked at by the league. His name's Blake Larson. He's like 6'7", like 310. And he can run. He's a freak. So then, then I see guys like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stay at guard. And, being a bigger, stronger dude, I play right guard right now. I would say, I think that's probably where I would stay if anything were to ever happen. And I think throughout the longevity of my college career, I could see me moving like left or something. But I think guard is probably where I'll stay, just because I'm more of like a more compact and stronger dude rather than like a long and fast guy.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So, something that all of us fantasy football watchers, football watching crew, there's a holding on pretty much every single play, right? Right.
Yeah.
And so how do you understand how the day's flowing? Like, if there is a holding on every play, do you kind of just take it easy in the beginning and see what the refs are calling, what the refs are not calling, and then just kind of go with that a little longer? Or how does that go? How does 4 quarters work as far as penalties go in an offensive line's mind?
It's funny that you mentioned that. The best thing to do is just not think about it, because if they don't see it, they won't call it. You know what I mean? So if you're honestly just constantly playing scared and just like kind of like looking back always, or like that's where you mess up the most. If you just kind of go with the flow, and like the way we're taught, it's not holding as long as it's inside the chest, because holding is out of here. So as long as you have your hands in the chest, man, and like you're like you're inside and you just don't think about it, that's the best way I found out. It's just don't think about it and just go. And if they call it, it's whatever. Like our coach tells us all the time. He's like, I will never get mad at you for an unnecessary roughness call. Obviously, don't do something stupid and take a cheap shot. But he was like, I will never be mad at you for that. And he was like, I'll take the blame. But like holding a lot about body positioning too, because you're a big guy, right? Like if you're moving your feet and just staying with the guy, the refs can't see it because they're behind you. So you just got to play the game, man. That's the best thing out. Probably like what you just have to do.
Nice.
Do you have players that you watch or idolize or try to mimic your game after? I mean, obviously, like you said, when you're in 6th, 7th grade, you want to play quarterback. So you watch quarterbacks, right? Yeah. But once it sets in that this is really where I can excel, whether it is guard, right? As an offensive lineman, are you like, hey, I'm going to go look up some of the best guards in the leagues, their footwork, how they move, all that stuff? Is that like film that you have to proactively seek to get better? Is that something coaches and stuff will put in front of you as part of things you have to work on, is by mimicking the players that already have done it and done it successfully?
100%. So I actually really look up to the 2 dudes who are getting scouted by the NFL. Actually 3 dudes. We have a guy named CJ James, and then we have a guy named obviously Blake. Blake's a tackle, but like he's just a dog. And like once you get to college, and like another guy named Trevor Burkhardt, he's our starting right guard. He's the guy in front of me. But I would say like once you get to college too, you watch a lot of your own guys. But like, yeah, for sure. So our offensive line coach is actually our NFL like liaison. So he gets a lot of film from the NFL. So yeah, we're like one of my favorite guys to watch is Zach Martin, no doubt.
Nice.
So,
he's holding out. He needs to get paid.
And the cool thing too is like we get like the cut ups. So it's not like TV film. Like we get like actual NFL cut ups that they're watching in practice. So like I've watched Zach Martin. I think Zach Martin's a really good dude, like to watch just because like he's done it for so long. Another dude I really like to watch is Quentin Nelson. Like that dude, animal. Yes. Like he's a dog. In the run game, like just his aggressiveness is something to take after. Like he's so technically sound too. But like I like watching old school guys too, like Larry Martin. I mean, he was a good dude for the Cowboys. And like there's a pulling guard that like Kevin Faneca, he played for the Steelers a long time ago. So, like,
okay, Allen's brother.
Dog. He could pull and hit like a dog. So I would recommend. Yeah, I would say like person who was recommending me was like if you just watch cut ups of those guys, like you'll pick up on small little cues. So yeah, I for sure like watching offensive linemen once you get to college is a really cool thing. And like you actually like what's cool is like you start to look up to the guys on your team, honestly.
Yeah. You talked about obviously you're going to Augustana, which is what, a D2 school right now?
Yeah, we're fingers crossed. In the next 4 years, we're hoping to transition up to D1. We had a bid during COVID, but obviously everything kind of got screwed over with that. But yeah, we were one of the top D2s in the country. At one point in the season last year, we were ranked number 8th.
Nice.
So yeah, that's currently where I'm going right now, and I'm happy as can be. I had a few D1 offers out of high school, but and that's like one of the best things that kind of happened to me is like so many guys get lost in the hoopla of like going D1 and going to the league. Nowadays, man, you have Twitter. Like anyone will find you. I'm so blessed to be at Augie, man. Like it's a good spot, and yeah, that's where I'm currently going right now.
CJ Ham, baby. CJ Ham alumni represent the Minnesota Vikings. Got the same logo. Not to mention the Vikings are lacking in guard, man. So in 4 years, hopefully there's that spot that opens up, and you just go from Viking to Viking, bro.
That's actually that Vikings actually like talked to. So we had a safety too. Unfortunately, got cut, but he like went to their training camp. The Vikings actually do a lot, and like they've sent. Like I think we've had a Viking scout at like 3 of our practices. They've been the NFL team that sends the most scouts. So
let's go.
Yeah, TJ definitely helped with that. But I've met him once before. But like he's a really genuinely good guy. Like he's a really cool guy. So yeah, it's always good to see guys like that around. Like we've sent I think 7 other guys to the league too.
Nice.
So yeah, but he's definitely one of the cooler ones though for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of highlight reels, I think you need ones of like just pancaking people and put them into the ground. So this is my next question is like, how good does that feel to just put them on the ground? Like that's got to be the best part. And like, do you keep track of that? Like, do you have a list of guys that just the people that you have brought down and just kind of writing names and checking them twice?
So I redshirted. So in college, I haven't gotten to do it, but in high school, I would actually keep I would mentally keep track of them. So like Well, it's funny is like so I went to Elkhorn North, which is the new school that I built. Like some of my teammates that I would play at, like my ex teammates that stay at the old school at Elkhorn High, when I'd play them, but I'd see them in public, I'd be like, yeah, I remember when I got you last year. So like mental log for sure. And like I definitely like, yeah, I could probably name a good amount of the guys that like I like. You definitely keep. It's not a stat, unfortunately, yet,
Right.
but yeah, every offensive lineman keeps track of how many they have a game. And yeah, my first one was my junior year, and oh my god, it's like just to like pick up another man and just throw him in the ground. It's like the best. Like like a king in that moment. You're like, you know, because you make that guy feel like he's like, you know, you just like to degrade a person to that level. Like you're like, I won. Like I've won this game. And then you keep doing it over and over and over and over again. Like it's a lot of fun, especially because then like, you know, you get praise in film and whatnot. So yeah, it's like definitely the best part of the game when it happens. And yeah, I do keep track. I did keep track.
Yeah. Speaking of flexibility and, you know, pancaking other dudes, well, what do you do when it happens to you and you get hurt? Have you gotten hurt before? What are some things you've had to do to recover from some of the injuries? Tell us a little bit about that world from an offensive lineman standpoint, recovering from an injury.
So knock on wood, no injuries, no crazy ones so
We're
far.
knocking.
I've had like, you know, like a dislocated thumb in high school, and like but like playing in the line, like on the line, you'll always get that, like sprains, rolled ankles, like, you know, you'll get like busted up knees and things like that. I would say probably my worst injuries were like like a few, like I dislocated my thumb, or like I'll like tweak a muscle, tweak a knee, just small stuff like that. Like I said, knock on wood, nothing crazy so far. I would say the biggest thing, and like I kind of realized this towards the end of high school as I started to talk to like more collegiate athletes, and I really realized this in college. Recovery is like, if not like on the same level, if not more important than what you do in the weight room. Like that, like longevity is like, that's like what will separate some guys who go to the league versus some guys who don't. It's just like, if you're a walking Band-Aid, they won't care how good you are. They're going to take a player who's all right in college, but can give them, you know, 5 extra years. So I realized like the biggest thing is recovery. Like, you know, like my athletic trainer in high school, like I would go down there towards the end and kind of see him every single day. So while I haven't had any injuries, and like I said, you know, knock on wood, but I would say the biggest thing that, and then you'll see a lot of NFL guys kind of prioritize this, is you're not like, yeah, you'll see like Nick Chubb squatting 600 pounds, but if you look at a lot of NFL workouts, guys aren't like really lifting like 600-700 pounds, like because it's just not productive, you know. And like what I realized is like a lot of the stuff that you'll do workout wise and all that is like the TB12 stuff that Tom Brady does. It seems like a lot of crap, honestly, but it's like it's really like it's really good. So I would say I've really prioritized my recovery in the last few years for sure, and like kind of like put it on the same level as getting bigger, faster, stronger, because, you know, I want the best ability is availability. You know what I mean? So doing that, and then just like constant stretching. But I would say like just being smart with my body for sure. But that's kind of what's helped me out throughout the years without, you know, gaining those crazy injuries.
Yeah, I mean, they say all the time, offensive linemen from the start of the season to the end of the season, you're just kind of battling through stuff. It's just kind of nicks and bruises that, again, for somebody like me who's not in the depth of that, if I dislocated my thumb, I'd probably be crying. You know, if I like did something like that, I'd probably be like, I'm out forever. But this man over here just popping it right back into place like Kobe or something and get back on the line. It's crazy to see how battered and bruised up those guys get, even a course 100%. Of a game, a course of a season. But like you said, Shan, have you ever experienced this? Maybe not to the depth yet, but like you said, you have a goal, right? You have what you kind of lay out for yourself as a path. Let's say you do have a hurdle where you have an injury, you know, how do you juggle the ability to, you know, put your ego aside and be like, you know, I probably need to recover versus I need to be available and play because this might be my only shot, or, you know, like how many looks are you going to get? So like you said, you have to be smart with your body, but if an opportunity comes knocking, how do you juggle being smart with an injury versus being like, you know what, like this is my shot, I have to play?
It all is like, if it was the situation of where it's your shot, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I would like a lot of offensive linemen. Yeah, you're right. That is the mentality. They would just kind of go through it. But it's like you said, it depends on levels. Like we had like our starting left guard CJ last year. Like he I would say he was basically playing on a broken ankle. They'd found out it was broken, but like he had to finish the last half of the season on it because we just didn't have many left guards, and he just had to play through it. As opposed to like we would have a guy we actually most recently, one of my teammates actually is on the offensive line. He retore his meniscus to the point where it's knee. And like he wants to be a nurse. Like he is going to nursing school right now, like doing clinicals, like, and he had to basically come down to the decision of, he's like, I want to play catch with my kids. You know what I mean? When I'm older, like I want to be able to run and bike with, you know, my wife when I'm older. So like it really comes down, like when it comes to stuff like that, it comes down to the severity. It's the long term, you know what I mean? Because short term, any guy's willing to play through it as long as it's the right opportunity. But I think it's, if you really look at the long term effects of it, that's really where it changes for a lot of guys. So
Yeah, and I think that segues to a good next question, Stas. I think you have it on here, but I'll just kind of throw it on there. How does a player even think about like backup plans in terms of like going to the NFL, right? Like obviously the 1% of 1% make it to the big dance or to the big leagues, right? But it's never, I mean, I would assume you're never like doubting yourself, but you're also just trying to be cautiously optimistic in the sense that like, if this doesn't work out, because it is only 1% of the population that it happens to, what are my backup plans? I guess mentally, how do you juggle with thinking that, you know, you've gone as far as you can with football and you need to find another path, or just keeping your options open, if that makes sense?
For sure. And I would say that change happens for a lot of guys in college. That's where, and like the NFL stuff. So like I've actually talked to my teammate Blake, who's getting looked at by the NFL. And like, what's funny is like that dude, like whenever I'll talk about the NFL with him, like, hey, like how's your, you know, process going? I'll be like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So he's not really like, and that's what I've learned is like the way you've got to look at the league, I would say in college is, you're right. It has to be very cautious. Cause like, even when like uncles and aunties will joke around with me, I'm like, y'all just don't get like how hard it is though. It's like, and like, um, it's definitely a cautious optimism for sure. And like you just like, and like that's like, because like my freshman year I had all these like really big goals. Like even my online coach told me, like, you're just putting unnecessary pressure on yourself. He was like, right now you just have to go play ball and let the rest happen. Because that's like, he's like, that's like so out of your control. The only thing you can control is playing ball. So to answer that question, I would say like, it's just like you can't really think about it. You just kind of have to live in the moment. And that's the biggest thing I've learned, is because last year I was definitely a stressor. I was like, oh, if I mess up this rep, like I won't be able to start, which will hinder this. You just can't live like that in college. Like, cause stuff just moves so fast in college football, you know, anything can happen. Like I'm like second or third on I'm third or second on the depth chart right now. You know, a few guys could go down, my opportunity could come. Like that's just how fast college football is. And I would say, to answer your other question, it's really, and like I love that you guys asked this. It's a really hard thing actually for a lot of guys, because like I saw a lot of my 6-year teammates who graduated, like a lot of them had a hard time getting out of football. So what they did is like some would join like a CrossFit gym, some would go do like, you know, anything with like a team. That's the biggest thing you have to do, and the biggest thing that like guys have kind of started to do, like if they realize they're not making the league but they're still so like football team, you know, is like guys will go join a gym, guys will go, you know, do something like where they still have like that team aspect. But I think college is, because like, you know, everyone that plays in high school is like, oh, I'm going to the league for sure. But college, you start seeing guys who are just as good as you, and you kind of like reality kind of sets in a little bit. So like I would say like just like, and like and like Augie is a lot like Augie's a really good school academically, so they always make sure too that we're staying on top of our school. So that makes sure that we have that, you know, whenever football is done. So I would say like, yeah, I just kind of in college, guys will kind of like start to see life after football, and it'll like kind of like, it takes a little bit of time to hit, but it'll hit. And that's the biggest thing. So it's like, it's actually not as like crazy of a transition as like some would expect, you know, regardless of how DNA'd football you are. Like colleges kind of set you straight a little bit. But it definitely depends on the school too. Like if they do a good job of like easing guys out of it, it definitely makes it a lot easier. But so far from what I've seen is like, it's that team aspect is what guys miss the most, not necessarily like I didn't make it to the league. So guys will just join gyms and stuff to supplement that, or like do different things. But it's actually a lot more seamless transition as long as the school's kind of doing a good job. So that's just kind of what I've seen. But it's definitely not an easy transition. But I think as long as you have good people around you and you kind of know what you're doing, like if you have a set path, like career-wise after football, it definitely makes it a lot easier.
Do you have set backup plans or something like that, should football not kind of be the end all be all for you?
100%. I'm doing business management degree with a minor in medical humanities. I'm definitely trying to go into like the healthcare management aspect of it, because you know that's what you think too, is like I'm in college right now. Like, yeah, is the NFL the goal for sure? And like, is Augustana a place I could do it out of? 100%. But you know, the reality of it is, yeah, it's like the 1%. You know, it's those are the kinds of dudes that make it, and like, it'd be super cool if I make it. But like, you kind of realize, like, especially after seeing like people with kids, you know, it kind of starts to hit you that like, you know, there is life outside of football, and so yeah, that's kind of my plan right now, and I obviously plan on getting an MBA too pretty soon. So
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I
yeah,
mean, I gotta say it would be, it already is. I mean, as far as I know, and maybe you've looked into this because I watched your KETV interview. I think it was last year when
yeah,
you were doing it with Elkhorn North, and they talked about, you know, representation and how you would be potentially, you were at Elkhorn North one of the first people to receive a D1 offer, and not only that, you're, as far as we know, one of the first people of Nepali descent to get a D1 offer. I mean,
yeah,
I tried to dive down that rabbit hole and look up other people and stuff like that, and I didn't really find much. So I don't know if you guys have dug into that at all, but again, even just not being able to find that representation is insanely impactful, like you said, to people that look up to you, even to people that are older than you, like us, who once had aspirations like that and
yeah,
thought, you know, it's just not attainable because it's not in our DNA. And then we see somebody like you. I mean, for me personally, it's incredibly amazing, and I just hope that journey continues for you, because it's an awesome treat to see for sure.
for sure. Yeah, no, that's the goal. Is like, I'm trying to do it for a lot of, and like, I hope like I can set an example, because like even nowadays, like I like even in Nebraska, there's so many like little brown kids that are like, oh, I want to play football, I want to do this, but my parents won't let me. So I hope, like, you know, like, and like, it's just funny because like people are always joking around. They're like, oh, celebrity. Like, I don't really look at myself like that. It's just more of sort of like, I hope parents can be like, oh shoot, like sooner in the middle, that's where I was able to do it. So like, maybe if I, you know, maybe if I tried or give my kid a shot, you know, I tell people like, hit up my dad all the time. Like, he can like help guide, because it's not easy for like, and like, it's just, it's funny because I think like we talked about this too before. It's just like, those are kind of the hurdles for Nepali kids, is like the size thing, but also like just kind of the lack of knowledge. And like, parents are always like, my mom and dad, like, they always made sure that studies were right. You know what I mean? Like, it's the Brown principles still like held true with the football. So like, I think if, and that's the hardest thing for parents to realize, is like that balance, because, you know, like, people are moving, like, you know, Nepali people are like moving to Elkhorn, Bennington out here now, right? And all they see are white kids, and they're like, oh, my kid can't do this because, you know, it would be hard on him. I just wish, like, I hope that I kind of serve as more of an example for people to be like, hey, just take a shot on it. You know, if you have a kid that's athletic and wants to do it and has interest, go take a shot, you know? So I definitely hope that, yeah, I can definitely inspire a few kids to just, or even parents to just, you know, let their kids kind of follow their passion, because it's worked out, I would say, decently well for me at least.
You kind of hit on this earlier with the whole recruiting thing, and there was a lot of politics and behind the scenes on
Yeah.
that. Can you elaborate more on that? Like, what did, when you found out that, you know, that there's another step where college is a possibility, what was that whole process like with the recruitment and all of that you mentioned earlier?
It's like the wild, wild west, man. Like, it's nuts. So you have like, you kind of have to get, so Twitter is like the main recruiting service. So you get like, I've talked to the craziest amount of college coaches. Like, you talk to so many people, and it's just a lot of politics, because like guys choose like, so what they'll do is September 1st usually was when like schools can start to contact you, and like they cast a wide net. Like, so many schools talk to some. So like, I was talking, like, the craziest school I think I talked to was like Iowa State, Boise State.
Nice.
And I talked to like Ivy League schools. Like, I was really like, I was kind of towards the end of getting an offer from Brown and Columbia. Like, you know, I was talking to Harvard a little bit too, but like those schools, like, it's different. It's like, it's a lot about who you know. There were some kids like in Nebraska, for instance, where like, so I was offered a preferred walk on by Greg Austin, who was the offensive line coach there. He got fired. So I got offered at the Purdue game that Saturday of PWO, that he got fired. And basically my walk on was basically just canceled. My PWO was canceled after he got fired. He got fired that Tuesday.
Wow.
So like, that's the craziest thing, kind of. And like, it's just like, college football can change like that, but also like, from the standpoint of it's just difficult because, like you said, coaches are talking to so many kids, like, you don't know where you are. A lot of it, like I said, is about who you know. Like, there's some kids who are like, who will get preferred walk-ons just because like their dad like plays golf with the assistant, you know, so and so coach there.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot, and like, that was one of the hardest things as a Brown kid too, is like, you know, I'm like, coaches look at me, they're like, oh yeah, who's this Indian kid trying to play? Like, there's obviously a little bit of that too, you know, being foreign and whatnot, but there's a lot that goes into recruiting and a lot of heartbreak, I would say, for a lot of kids. Cause like, I know some kids that were talking to schools the entire time, and like due to COVID, our class got really screwed over because everyone was using that 6 year and they could take limited numbers, and kids were told no, we can't, we don't have enough roster spots for you. So yeah, there's a lot that goes in. Like recruiting is a really nasty world because it's just a lot about like who you know, and there's a lot of heartbreak because like a lot of people literally will just tell you no right away to your dream. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you got to have some thick skin, right? Take rejection and just kind of move on. So, like you said, especially like growing up, your dad being a fanatic of the Huskers, you being a Husker fan, it probably just seemed organic or natural that, yeah, I want to play for Nebraska. I want to play for the Huskers, you know, like if I'm going to play football. And like you said, when something like that happens, it's hard to probably just mentally, I guess, take yourself away from that and just being like, it's a business. I mean, this is kind of just how it is, right? And not take it so personally.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. So with me in Nebraska, I was like at the Purdue game, that I was the only offensive lineman on that visit. So they were, you know, they were like, hey, you know, preferred walk-ons an opportunity we have for you. And then Coach Austin ended up getting fired. And then later, like right before signing day, it was kind of between Augustana and Nebraska. And then because they were still kind of talking to me, but what they told me was like, they're like, hey man, we ran out of roster spots. Like unfortunately, like good luck at Augustana, or you know, Drake was my other option.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Nebraska basically told me. So basically it was kind of pulled. And yeah, that was hard. I mean, it's still kind of hard. Like I hate kind of driving by Memorial Stadium still, just because it's like what could have been. But at the same time, you know, I'm just like, I was just thankful to go on those visits. I was thankful to, you know, like that's where you kind of look back though. And like, and you know, no shade at Nebraska or anything, but like, I'm really glad I'm at Augie. I think, you know, my head coach is still here after, you know, a year. So no
shots fired, baby.
I don't want to shade anyone. But like, I think, you know, and like my mom said it best, like, you know, I think you're really supposed to end up where you're supposed to be. So am I mad I didn't end up in Nebraska? No. You know, was I a little bummed out in the moment? But like, I'm so glad I was able to have all those opportunities. And now I know I'm in the place to be at Augie. So it's definitely heartbreaking, but once you kind of select your home, like, cause you know, after I set foot at Augie, I was like, yeah, I want to be here. So it is heartbreaking, but like, then you get to a place that really wants you. And you know, a walk-on would have been, you know, like it would have been cool, but like a walk-on's a walk-on. Like part of the reason why I chose Augie is they offered me good money and they're a really good football school. And I wanted to win. And, you know, you get to a place like that, you kind of start to forget about everything. So, you know, while it does suck in the moment, if you really, when you end up where you're supposed to be, it makes it so much better though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No. That's really good stuff. Do you guys have anything else for Shan before we just end it with some rapid fire questions for him?
Nope. I'm ready for some rapid firing.
All right, Shan, we'll do some rapid fire for you. Nepali food or American food?
You know, my answer would have been different last year. Now I have to say Nepali food. I'm not going to lie.
Bro, your parents are going to be so happy to hear that. I feel like all of our parents at one point were like, the day you leave our house and you don't have this Nepali food anymore, you're going to wish one day that you could come back to this Nepali food. And I think all of us at some point have felt that one way or the other. I
agree. I hate on, I'm still not the biggest like Pat fan. I won't lie. Like I think dal bhat is like solid, but like the other stuff, like chicken gora, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but you can't go wrong with Nepali snacks, man. Like aloo sadeko, you know, like wai sadeko, sukuti.
Oh, that's like, all the good stuff. You're speaking my language.
You can't go wrong. Like, and Dallas has it the best. Like when I was down for your wedding, man, I won't lie, I ate like crazy.
I'm happy you did, man. I need you to maintain that size.
You had one of the best catered weddings, I will say, that I've had. That chow mein, man, and that buffalo kasuguti, bro, game over.
Thank you, brother. I'm glad you were able to enjoy that.
I was, man.
Your favorite sport to play outside of football?
Basketball, 100%.
Yeah. Position?
What position?
In basketball? I mean, they always put me at center. Whenever I play with whenever I play with the Nepali crew, I'm always they never let me do anything else.
You're over there trying to shoot threes in the corner. Like, Shan, we need you posting up, homie.
You're 5. Get under the rim, right? That's probably what I would say.
Literally.
In football, if you weren't playing offensive line, Shan, what's your position you'd choose to play?
You know, honestly, like a defensive end to edge guy. I feel like that would be so fun if you could just pass rush and get sacks. Everyone would say like quarterback. I don't want to be a quarterback. It's too much stress. But yeah, a wide receiver, you get targeted like half the time. I think defensive, like a Von Miller edge would be so fun.
Oh yeah, getting after the quarterback sounds like a treat. Favorite football player?
Von Miller. I would
Von
say.
Miller?
Like he was. So I used to be when I was a defensive end. I think like I love O-line play, but I think watching like a good defensive end is so fun. Like they're studs, and like the athletic ability they have is crazy. So yeah, I would probably say Von Miller all time.
Yeah. Shove
Yeah.
you got one in red there. You want to ask it?
Yeah. So if you scored a touchdown on offense, what would your celebration look like?
I thought about this. I would probably hit him with the namaste. I would probably
Damn, Arian Foster style.
I would probably, because there's a Nebraska player named Kenny Bell. He always used to hit
He
that.
did used to do that. Yep.
So
Aaron Foster. Do you know who Aaron Foster is?
Yeah. Oh, he did do that.
He did do that. Yeah. He was doing that too.
That's simple. I can't get flagged for it. You know what I mean? I feel
That's
like
true.
like it's tough, and I feel like I wouldn't get yelled at. So
Do you guys in practice have any like touchdown celebrations as a team or anything like that? Did you ever do anything like that?
thing is during fall camp too, because fall camp sucks, so we try to like whenever like we'll score, the big guys will always do a celebration. Like like one time we did like the those like air floaties outside the car places.
Yeah.
We would all just do it together as a line, because like we weren't gonna run all the way down there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the bottom of like the film screen, we for sure do.
That's awesome. That is awesome, Shan. Thank you so much for your time with us today. Do you guys have any final words for Shan?
Yeah, who's winning the Super Bowl, Shan?
I think KC's going to repeat, man. They got a better team. I think Kansas City's going to repeat. I don't know.
They're
pretty safe to say at this point. As long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are there, anything can happen.
Yeah, and as long as everyone's healthy. I mean, come on. They got some cold players. I don't know, though. I think Cincinnati could be interesting, but with all this running back stuff, who knows?
Yeah. I hate to put this out there, but if you had to get drafted by one team, do you have a team you want to get drafted by?
Honestly, I would say with how up and coming they are, I mean, low key Minnesota, man. I mean, I'm not just saying that's. I think they're a really good franchise that has a really good, solid base. That's like the number one, and like that's kind of what's been the biggest thing for me is like you got to look at like stability. Like you don't want coaches that are going to be in and out. I would either say I think the Jets or Minnesota, maybe Denver. Throw Denver in there too, just because I like them. But yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Two of those three really need protection, so I hope you can do something about that.
All right, Shan. Hey, appreciate your time, man. Hopefully we can get you back on again during the season. Good luck with everything. Stay in touch. Again, thanks a lot for your time, man. We're so grateful.
Appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you.
See you, man.
Namaste.
That was Shan Acharya, football player from Augustana University. Wow, man. Any thoughts?
That guy's massive. Just through Zoom, you can just see how huge his arms are. Man.
Oh my God.
I should put my camera a little lower then. So Shova, you can get that satisfaction right here, right now.
I don't know about satisfaction. It's more dissatisfaction because my arms aren't like that.
Dude,
damn.
That was a fun conversation and really gets you to kind of look at what life is like for a recruiter and college player. So that's fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun to continue to follow along his journey, however far he gets, and hopefully we can get him back on and he can just continue to update us because it is really cool to follow his journey for sure. That is it, guys. That is the interview with Shan Acharya. We will be back hopefully next week with more football content. There is football officially underway this week. If we end up putting this out, a Hall of Fame game, which Shosho, guess who's starting for the Browns? Kellen Mond is the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So that'll be a sight to see, but we will be back next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Sweetcard. That's Shovit. That is Shosho. We're the only playbook.